The Citroen BX is one of the most successful Citroens of all time, selling 2.3 million units in just 12 years. The only other Citroen to have beaten that in more recent times is the Citroen AX. And it's a real high point for Citroen, a car that cast off the weirdness, delicious weirdness, of the GS and GSA and went for something that was conventional enough to appeal to the mass market, but still a bit odd enough to appeal to the true Citroenists. So let's take a look around this lovely example right here. While the countryside burns. So the epic design of the BX is by Marcello Gandini working for Bertone, although in truth it was a collaboration with Citroen's own designers as well, but there are some very strong Gandini themes here on the BX. We can see elements of the failed Reliant FW11 that was developed in the 1970s. The Volvo Tundra, most notably, the concept car from 1979, by which time I'm sure Citroen were already working on the BX in some depth. And even the Fiat X10, which was a two-seater sports car concept, all very clear Gandini themes. Gandini also famously designing the Lamborghini Countach, so he knew a thing or two about design. This is a later one. This is a Mark II, so we've got the larger front indicators, now clear, slightly different bumper design, more flared wheel arches, and this is a TXD, which slotted just below the real success story for Citroen, especially in the UK, the TZD Turbo, which was a diesel that looked like a GTI. This toned it down a bit. It's got a bit of chrome work even. It's got the wrong wheel trims. These are not the correct wheel trims for the car, but we still get the hoopy spoiler. So you're probably expecting fearsome performance. No. So a second facelift of the BX introduced these delicious smoked rear lights used in association with this black panel on the back, and really modernized the design for the early 1990s, this one dating from about 1992. But we need to explain this, how this works. So it's a 19 TXD, but the T does not stand for turbo. That is purely part of the trim level. So it's a 1.9 diesel, and just to slow you down even more, it's an automatic. So this is probably the slowest Citroen BX you could buy. There was a 1.7 diesel as well, but that was only available as a manual. But this is a sporty looking, very slow diesel. Under the bonnet, there's a little plastic hook for you to operate the bonnet release. And oh yes, it feels very familiar. I've owned a great many BXs over the years. So here we can see the 1.9 litre XUD engine. It was an engine that first appeared oddly in the Talbot Horizon, but the BX used it to find huge fleet favour. This was the best diesel engine on the market at the time. Notably, the likes of Vauxhall and Ford were caught napping. They were using much older diesel engine technology, and yet here was the BX. It was kicking out 71 brake horsepower in this form, and the turbo diesel was kicking out 90, which was good enough for a 0 to 60 time of about 10 seconds. More like 16 in this with the automatic transmission. But there was a huge range of engines throughout the BX's life. It began life with the suitcase Duvran engine, a 1.4 litre, or the 1.6 litre XU. So that's the petrol version of this engine, the XUs and the smaller TUs. And yeah, huge range of engines, all the way down to a 1.1 for the Greek and Italian markets, I think they were, for tax reasons, right up to the fire-breathing 16 valve. So 2 litre 16 valve, producing 160 brake horsepower and having a 0 to 60 time of around 8 seconds. An absolute flying machine, just like this isn't. But it was the diesel engine that helped these cars find favour. It delivered huge economy and very reliable. They were popular as taxis. So it's that normality of the ordinary Peugeot running gear that helped the BX become such an amazing success story. If you come in close, you can also see the suspension. We've got the famous hydro-pneumatic suspension. So this sphere is the springing and the damping, and only a few years old by the look of it. but it's linked to a McPherson strut. That was a compromise for the BX to simplify and lower the production costs, because Citroen historically not so good at actually factoring in a profit on cars, and Peugeot's sensible head forced some sense into the BX, and that is very much part of the car's appeal. Oh, incidentally, some BXs had plastic bonnets. I think the diesels for some reason tended to have steel, maybe because more insulation bolted to it. And you'll also see the diesels tended to have a bit of extra ventilation below the grille. Petrols would often have the bonnet go right down to the bumper. Moving inside, that classic check strap BX clank. And that's quite a pleasing clunking sound as the door shuts, but interior quality was never the best in the BX, and I say that with much love because I've owned many of them. We've got coin storage here, and indeed he has actually got some coins in here. Ashtray for tissues. This does nothing, but in some models I think would be a sort of a check panel if you've got a particularly high spec version. Got a sporty 4-spoke steering wheel for my 71 brake horsepower, but no rev counter. I think the turbo diesel would have a rev counter. We just got a clock, which I'm happy to say is still functioning perfectly. No temperature gauge, but we have got an oil indicator, so when I pop the ignition on, it will do an electronic oil check. So there we go, we got plenty of oil. That's good to know. So you just get lights. A yellow light tells you your engine is pretty much dead, and the red one confirms it. So that's what's going on there. But this sort of instrument design, it sort of hints at the earlier fingertip style of the Mark 1 BX, but it wasn't the best layout, unfortunately. I think this one works better. You can operate these switches like the rear wiper, the hazard lights, without removing your hand from the wheel. So it's just a little nod to when all the switchgear was on a satellite like this. This one seems to move around a little more than is normal. You have to go digging in here if the speedometer cable breaks, and the heater tap can often stick as well, so it's a good idea to give that an exercise every now and then. Down here, the control for the ZF gearbox, 4-speed unit, but I don't believe it has a torque converter lockup. Handbrake here operates on the front wheels, and here is the suspension height control. So that's up, intermediate, normal, and your low slammed look cool at a show position. So up above my head we've got map reading lights, which are quite nice, and the electric, we're not going to touch that, tilt slide sunroof. BX's always tended to be well spec'd. Even the lowly RE or RD, which is roughly equivalent to a Vauxhall or Ford L, tended to come with a sunroof and electric front windows. Kind of unheard of. So when it came to bragging rights of your specs when you're in the sales car park, the BX always did quite nicely, and the pricing tended to be keen as well, because the BX was actually kind of conceived to go up against the larger end of the super mini market, so the Astra and Escort, but was big enough to also rival the Cavalier and Sierra. So it was a bit of an odd size with tiny little engines like a 1.4 petrol in quite a big body. But like I say, it was a very broad range, and it did kind of cross categories. But the driving position is absolutely excellent. We've got the sporty GTI style seats. You can adjust, I think, yes, it's a bit stiff, but you can adjust the tilt of the seat as well as the backrest. The headrest should ideally be a bit higher for me, but I'm going to leave it where it is. But it's a lovely, comfortable driving position. So many memories. I've done an awful lot of miles in cars such as this. This is actually a bit of a strange one though, because I've known this car for a very, very long time. It used to belong to a chap called Barry, and I would frequently see him in Aberystwyth. My ears would prick as I heard that classic XUD clatter, and I've got loads of pictures over the years where I've snapped this car driving by. Sadly, Barry passed away last year, but his son John is doing an excellent job of keeping this car in lovely condition, and it is still in regular use, and that makes me very happy. So all those times I saw that car, I never thought one day I'd actually be driving it. But nostalgia aside, let's have a hop into the back. So you have to watch your head a bit getting in, the way that pillar comes down, and that's the same on the Estates as the saloons, because the Estates were a conversion of the hatchback body. But settling in, and headroom is a bit tight, not helped by having a sunroof, so that actually robs an inch or two of headroom. But we got the centre armrest going on, and I remember I would sometimes get picked up by a school friend of mine, and his dad would drive us into school in a TZD turbo, so I would sit in the back of this, and oh my gosh, it was so sporty yet so comfortable. A weird juxtaposition. Some BXs actually have a little window here. That tended to be the TZ trim level, or sometimes the TR would actually have windows there. But on most models, the whole is blanked over, so it's solid inside and out. But yeah, really nice place to sit. Boot space is surprisingly spacious. Although the parcel shelf does get in the way of turning this into a camper. That said, I have actually slept in the back of a BX, and it's not superb, but it can be done. But yes, plenty of room back here because of the notchback style. Graceful, eh? So we got all this space, and another good thing is you can fold the seats. They tumble down nice and flat. I've had half a ton in the back of a BX, and with that magic self-leveling suspension, it just lifts up back to normal. The rear brakes work harder because the more load that's on the rear suspension, the more brake fluid comes through to the calipers. Very, very clever design. It works really, really well. Oh, and note this. There's a little hole here, so water can't get stuck in this little well here. How's that for a neat bit of design? So fire the engine up, have to wait for the glow plugs, takes a while. Not good as a getaway car. And yeah, you can tell, oh, there goes the suspension, leveling us off again. You can tell that it's a very, very old school mechanical diesel. Windscreen wiper test, I think he's fitted aftermarket washers. There should be a washer on the blade, but they can be very problematic. So you can see there's actually a little hose built into the wiper arm, so probably easier to just fit extra ones that don't clog up every 5 seconds. There is a rear wiper as well, but it's a bit of an odd one because you have to press and hold it, and then when you let off, it stops. So you just get the one wipe. You can't actually turn it on, which I always found a bit weird, but I guess because it's like a saloon with a really sort of low rear window, I guess it's mostly avoiding spray at the back. Headlights are turned on like so. So you can always tell when you're in the side light position because the stalk feels different. I think these stalks were used in other Citroens as well. The horn is a good old horn. But into drive we go, or A. I'm sure my little French expert could tell me what A probably stands for. No?
I'd go back.
Forward, and then away we go. This is weird because most of the BXs I've ever driven have been manuals, and it's not a brilliant gear change in all honesty. So as soon as you're underway, the engine does quieten down a bit, but I'm wondering if he's got comfort spheres on this. This feels very, very soft and floaty, or is it just too long since I've driven a BX? But the hydraulic system also does the brakes and the steering, so it's all one system. Which means if your steering goes heavy, you probably want to stop because it probably means your brakes are going to fail quite soon. I only ever had complete failure of hydraulics once, and even then it actually still worked. It was just spraying a fine mist behind me as I went down the road. But yeah, it's just so good to be back. It's such a nice driving position. And the steering on the ones with power steering, sorry David, who I know is watching, it's just lovely. It's a really nice weight, and really nicely geared. So a power steered BX is definitely the one to go for. But while the suspension is floaty and comfortable, I have plenty of experience of punting these things into bends at daft speeds. They corner so well. And the suspension is firmer, generally, than earlier hydraulic Citroens. But I think it's probably a good thing. It made it a bit more normal to people who weren't used to the quirky Citroen suspension. Oh, this one must have comfort spheres on it. Really floats. It floats like a GSA. But it has to be said, the 1.9 litre diesel automatic is not the one to choose if you want pace. We'll go and find some quicker roads and I can show you just what it hasn't got. So it's a ZF unit, 4 HP 14 I believe. And it's nice and smooth. But yeah, this is no ball of fire. The automatic transmission robs some of the little power it has. It doesn't have a lot to start with, and now some has been taken from it. Alright, so we approach the 50 limit. We can go from 30 to 50. Let's see how long it takes. That's 50. Gear change is quite good. It's quite snappy but smooth. But yeah, there's no pretense of going quickly really. You kind of need to adopt a policy of maintaining your momentum at all costs, which is a skill I've learned from driving a Citroen 2CV. It also comes in very handy when trying to maximise range in electric cars. So you only slow down as much as you can get away with really. And the fine handling of the BX means that isn't a problem, because you can kind of just punt it into bends and they go round at speeds, but frankly are slightly a little uncomfortable. They're such a good handling car. This was absolute peak time for Peugeot and Citroen. They really knew what they were doing, and it makes for some very entertaining family cars, even when they've only got 71 horsepower and an automatic transmission. But yeah, it's just, oh, I've forgotten how much I like BXs. They're such good cars. Yes, there's the odd trim rattle here and there, and the electrics can be a little French at times, but there's a lot to love. And I think technically they just peed all over the competition. Possible exception of the Peugeot 405, which shared the floor pan but had conventional suspension. The French just proving that ride and handling can happen at the same time, and also that a family car needn't be horrendously dull. Now we've kicked down because we're starting to go uphill now. They never did a turbo diesel automatic, which is a shame, but I don't think there was a gearbox available that could handle the torque back then. Back in the 1980s, when the diesel auto became available, it was a very rare option other than Mercedes-Benz. And Mercedes-Benz developed their own transmissions, so that was slightly cheating. But yeah, as we go through the bends, there is a bit of body roll, but it's alright. Body roll is not to be feared.
I wonder if it's A for alley to go.
Oh, maybe. So yeah, here we are, 50 miles an hour. Just hugs the road so well, and the suspension just absorbs all the bumps. So if you hit bumps mid-bend, it's all just absorbed. It's lovely. The suspension isn't perfect. It doesn't like potholes. And I think part of that is just because the strut design isn't quite as responsive as double wishbone. And partly it's because the mount is just there in front of you, so all that shock load is getting transmitted to a point in the body that's quite close to you, and I think that exaggerates the harshness you feel over a pothole. But most of the time they're just incredible. It's designed to eat up the miles. So me personally, I've owned mostly non-turbo diesel BXs, and one 16 valve, which I sold before I lost my license because it was so addictive. It just got to 4,000 revs and went absolutely crazy. It's one heck of an engine. It's basically a race engine for a production car. Oh. Yeah, this may not be the ideal engine and gearbox combination, but it still works so well. And it just feels a world away from the odd quirkiness of the GSA. Now, GSA, a proper thoroughbred Citroen, that's not necessarily entirely a good thing. The Citroen ad campaigns also helped. Loves driving, hates garages was one of the slogans for the BX, showing that in service terms, more reliable, tended to be less timely to work on than a GSA, where you often had to take the engine out to do even fairly basic tasks. This was designed to be easier to work on. That's where the Peugeot underpinnings came in helpful. So the BX was launched in 1982, finally went out of production in a state form in 1994 after a slight overlap with the Citroen Xantia, a much larger car, a car that fully embraced the larger market sector. Whereas the BX, like I say, kind of straddled a bit like the Austin Maestro. That was always a big car for its class. Oh, there's one other BX I must acknowledge, and that's the Mark 1 19 GT that I drove around the North Island of New Zealand, borrowed from a friend, and it was just absolutely lovely. But slightly hampered by carburation, it always ran a bit roughly. And like I said, the Mark 1 interior didn't work that well, I don't think. The Mark 2 is a really nice bit of design, brings important controls close to hand, and I think works well. Includes radical things like self-cancelling indicators. You didn't get that on the Mark 1 because the indicators were here. My only grumble is obviously single wiper leaves this unswept corner, and the more I own BXs, the more annoying that became. Because especially on right-hand bends, you're looking right through this part of the windscreen and it's not swept. Peugeot 405 wins there, I guess. Oh wow, she lowers quickly. That is a beautiful reintroduction to the world of the Citroen BX. I love these cars so much. They have so much to offer. They're so practical. They're so lovely to drive. They're so reliable. Even with the hydraulics, I've only once had a major failure of hydraulics in many tens of thousands of miles of BX ownership. Yeah, it's just lovely to be in one again. So yeah, huge thanks to Barry for looking after this car as he did for so many years, and to John for continuing that legacy today. We appreciate it very much. So thank you for watching. Don't forget you can head to the HubNut store if you would like to buy lovely merchandise. I should probably explain, by the way, if you're in the Netherlands, De Snoek Fabriek is actually a Dutch restorer and repairer of the Citroen BX. That's why I'm wearing it. But yeah, we shall see you in a future video. Farewell. God, we're going to get blown away.